Happy Valentine's Day, Yinzers. We got a great slate of Steelers, rumors, and news to cover for you today. Coming up here on the show, PFF revealed two names that they think are perfect fits for the Pittsburgh Steelers that the Steelers should target. We're going to be revealing those names in just a second. Then Sports Illustrated put out a different list of 6 inside linebacker free agent targets for the Steelers, breaking down that list. And then also the Ravens have a new OC. We'll be revealing who that is in just a second, so stick around for today's topics. But before we get into today's action, stay in the know this offseason and subscribe to the channel. We try to be the most comprehensive Steelers news and rumors channel here on YouTube. We have weekly live shows every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We try to give you guys the breaking news, the latest rumors surrounding the Steelers, so you always know what is up with the black and gold. So if you're looking for that draft coverage, free agency coverage, live shows, all that good stuff, guys, go ahead and click that subscribe button right now. Okay, so PFF, they came out with a list of, they went through all 32 NFL teams and they picked 2 players that they thought were excellent fits for those teams. So for the Steelers, first on their list was DeJuan Jones, right tackle out of Ohio State. And this guy is a hulking human being at 6'8", 350 pounds. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, that guy is huge. And not only that, but he paired that with a very, very good PFF grade this last year, 13th in the nation there with an 82.1 grade, which was drastically better than it was in 2021. In 2022, he improved his balance a ton. Like before, some of these edge rushers could kind of finesse him a bit. He didn't have the greatest balance. It's tough to have great balance when you're 6'8", all right, and you're trying to get low, all these different edge rushers in the Big Ten. It can be tough, but this year he did a really good job of that. Now, the thing is, I'm not sure that Jones is going to be a left tackle at the NFL level. I think he's going to be more of a right tackle, and I think the Steelers maybe want to go get a left tackle. I mean, it kind of depends on what they want to do with Dan Moore Jr., right? I think DeJuan Jones, if the Steelers are looking for a right tackle, he's a great option. But the big question going into this offseason is, what are the Steelers' plans with Dan Moore Jr.? Is the plan to keep him at left tackle, or are they going to take an approach kind of what I would do and cut Chukwuma Okorafor and then move Dan Moore Jr. over to the right side and then spend that early draft pick on a future left tackle? I'm not too sure, guys, so go ahead in the comment section right now and weigh in here. Should Pittsburgh keep Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle in 2023? Type Y if you think yes, or type N if you think no. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So whenever you get an ad break here on the show, go into the comment section, find that pinned comment. It'll be right there at the top, and answer today's question. And the next guy that they had as a perfect fit for the Steelers was Darius Rush, the other cornerback from South Carolina. We talked about Cam Smith a lot here on the show. I think I mentioned Darius on another video. I think it was the Senior Bowl winners video we talked about Rush, because he was arguably the best cornerback at the Senior Bowl. At 6'2", 200 pounds, he showed a great ability to stick with receivers in one-on-one man coverage. That's going to be something that the Steelers really covet, because they play a lot of man-match zone coverage, which means that they're going to have corners that you can trust in one-on-one coverage down the field. Darius Rush has been very impressive. He's been a big-time riser here during this process so far. We'll see what his 40 time is. On tape, some people said he was a little bit slow, but I mean, honestly, based on what I saw from the Senior Bowl, this guy has all the speed needed to be a really good cornerback in the National Football League. You can probably get him either at number 50 there in the second round, or in round 3 if you are the Steelers. You don't have to spend that premium pick on a cornerback if you don't want to. You can go get other things. So Darius Rush, I think both of these are good fits for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Rush is yet another viable cornerback option, right? The thing with cornerback in this year's draft class is that the Steelers don't have to rush it, right? They have other needs. They can go get a left tackle early on. At the end of the day, cornerback, you can get a good cornerback, potential starter like on day 3, like in round 4. There's a ton of really good prospects in this year's draft class, and they have many, many options at their disposal. They can kind of tailor their draft plan around the cornerback position. They can have guys in multiple rounds that they're comfortable taking, And at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if they take maybe even 2 corners, right? You take one early, someone that you think is really going to be a lockdown true cornerback one, and then say like someone later in the later rounds, like a Julius Brents out of Kansas State. If he's there on day 3, maybe they take him. I think there's a lot of options. It's very, very fun to think about. And speaking of PFF here, these were the 2 draft fits. Now they also said what was the biggest mistake for the Steelers. They went through all 32 NFL teams and picked their worst draft mistake of the last half decade, 5 years. And the player that they picked was Najee Harris, running back. Remember, the Steelers took him in the 2021 draft, 24th overall. And as of yet, I'm a big fan of Najee. I think that he's got the talent. I think he's going to be a good back in this league for a while. Hopefully he develops into that star player that they were hoping that they were getting when they drafted him next season. But to this point, he hasn't been that, right? He hasn't been that big play kind of guy. He's had his best moments, arguably A, as a receiver, and 2, as a power back. So as a kind of a dynamic bell cow, he hasn't developed into that. And PFF is not a fan of drafting a running back early at all. And, I'm not sure if Najee Harris was the right pick there at 24th overall, but at the end of the day, I cannot believe they did not take Devin Bush, right? The Steelers traded up. They traded up to 19th overall to take an inside linebacker, and that inside linebacker didn't even pan out. He's going to hit free agency this offseason, and the Steelers probably aren't going to re-sign him. I don't even think Bush wants to come back. I think he's had some statements saying he doesn't even want to come back. So how is it not Devin Bush, right? Najee Harris is a serviceable back. He's a starting running back 1 in the National Football League. How is that worse than trading up for an inside linebacker that ends up being a bust? I just don't get that from PFF, but I guess that's their opinion. They really hate taking running backs in the first round if you know anything about PFF. So let me know in the comments section right now, what has been the biggest draft mistake for Pittsburgh in the last 5 years? For me, I have to go Devin Bush, but if you think it's somebody else, let me know in the comments section right now. I cannot wait to see what you guys say in the comments section. Next up here, Sports Illustrated came out with a list of 6 inside linebackers that are about to hit free agency that the Steelers should pursue. Number 1 on their list, someone that's been on my list for a long time, David Long Jr. We've talked about him a lot on the show. I think that he'd be a really good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the one thing that you could say about David Long is that he's a bit small, right? If you want to pair him with Mark Robinson heading into the future, that's 2 kind of smaller linebackers that you're putting together, right? Only 5'11", 227, which is a bit light, but at the end of the day, he's one of the smartest, most capable linebackers in the National Football League, one of the best run stuffers in the league. He's really good at filling gaps. He has great instincts. He's pretty good in pass coverage as well. I think he's a pro, and right now Spotrac.com says the Steelers can get him for 2 years and just about $5 million per year, right? That's an affordable contract for a really good pro. I think that would be perfectly fair. And if David is actually expecting to get that kind of contract and not something higher, I think the Steelers should really consider bringing him in. So let me ask you a question now, Steeler Nation. Do you have a Kenny Pickett jersey yet? If you don't, you have to go to Fanatics right now. Use the link down below, chatsports.com/Pickett, where it's going to take you to the Fanatics website, and they're going to show you their collection of Kenny Pickett jerseys, right? You got the white, you got the black, they've got a whole bunch of different options for you to choose from. Kenny Pickett, if you believe that Kenny Pickett is the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is going to be an investment worth taking. So go ahead right now, go to chatsports.com/Pickett to get your Kenny Pickett jersey today. Next on Sports Illustrated's list of inside linebacker targets is Azeez Al-Shaair from the San Francisco 49ers, and I think this guy is going to come at a discount as well. Same thing with David Long, right? This guy is somebody that gets overshadowed by Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, and this guy's a really good player as well. He's 6'2", 228, can really run. I think that he's a good player, and I think that right now, I was talking with my 49ers guy here at Chat Sports, and he expects that his market value is going to be about 3 years, $7.5 million per year. So that's not necessarily a cheap contract. That's not necessarily a steal, but at the end of the day, he is a good young player, someone that's, I think, fits what the Steelers try to do on defense. So, and it's a decent price. It's not crazy. It's not getting into the double digits of millions of dollars here. We're talking about a good player on a solid contract, something that the Steelers could be looking into. Number 3 on Sports Illustrated's list here is Quincy Williams. Quinnen Williams' brother, actually. They were playing together on the New York Jets defense this year. That was actually pretty darn good. Quincy, he's somebody that's a really good blitzer, somebody that really attacks, and somebody that I think Mike Tomlin is really going to like. I think that he's the type of player that Tomlin loves. He came in for a draft visit when he was drafted a couple years back. It seems like the Steelers really like this guy, and now he's hitting the open market. And, he's not the biggest guy in the world, 5'11", 230, so it's not terrible, but he can really run. He plays with great instincts. He really had a breakout season this year with the Jets, but right now the market value is a little bit hard to tell. I think maybe in the $7 to $8 million range, similar to Al-Shaair, just because of the size element. He's not like a superstar level inside linebacker or anything like that. I don't expect it to get up into the 8 figures, but I do think it's going to be a pretty decent contract. I guess we'll just have to see how his value shapes out in the market this year. All right, guys, so we're going to be doing something this week on the live show on Thursday. Tune in. It's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. If you give me a follow on Twitter, I will give you a shout out on Thursday's live show. Okay, guys, I put up my weekly NFL mock draft up on my Twitter. I put up a bunch of different additional Steelers news and rumors content up on my Twitter. So if you love what you see here on Steelers Talk and you want some more Steelers content from me, go ahead, follow me on Twitter at Jack_Sperry, and then I will give you a shout out on Thursday's show. Next up on the list here, Kyzir White just played in the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's another guy I think Tomlin's going to really like. This list is actually pretty darn accurate, if you ask me. I think the guys at Sports Illustrated did a really good job. And Kyzir White, somebody that's a really great athlete, really runs fast. He's pretty big for as fast as he runs, 6'2", 234, over 100 tackles this past season. I think that I'm not sure it's going to get up into the 8 figures range, but I do think the Steelers could get him on a 2-year deal, $8.5 million per season if they want to pursue Kyzir. He's a good player. I would definitely love to see him in the black and gold. Number 5 on the list here, Leighton Vander Esch, and this guy's a bit of a risk, because he's dealt with injuries throughout his entire career. He's dealt with different kinds of neck injuries, and that just comes with inherent risk. But he's a really good player, really showed out in 2022. He had a couple of seasons before this year, like 2020, 2021, he didn't play his best football. But in 2022, really showed out, was a really good player. I think he's going to command I talked with our Cowboys guy, Tom Downey, and he was talking about how he could go anywhere from like 5 to 10 million. Like, he's not sure what the market value is expected to be for Leighton Vander Esch. I would say it's probably going to end up being somewhere where, like we've been talking about, 7, 8 million, somewhere in that range. But he's a good player. If the Steelers ended up adding him, I wouldn't mind it at all. And then lastly on the list, this is probably my least favorite name on the list, Jermaine Pratt. I like Jermaine Pratt as a player. He's a really good player, maybe a top 10, maybe top 15 linebacker in the National Football League. 6'3", 250, big guy, hard hitter. I think he'd fit what the Steelers are trying to do, but I just think it's going to be too expensive. It's expected to get up into the 8-figure range there, $10.6 million for 4 years. I think he's probably worth that. He's a good player. I just don't think the Steelers, with how expensive their defense is, especially, too, he played for the Bengals, a rival. I'm not sure if as Steelers fans would be willing to cough up that much money for someone that used to play for a rival. All right, guys, go ahead and pick an inside linebacker for the Steelers to sign for me. For me, I like David Long Jr. I like a couple of different guys. Kyzir White is another guy I really like. Anybody except Jermaine Pratt on Sports Illustrated's list was pretty good for me. So go ahead and tell me which inside linebacker you want the Steelers to sign this offseason. And finally here, let's talk a little bit about the Ravens, the dreaded Ratbirds, who hired Todd Monken as their offensive coordinator today. Monken is a 2-time reigning national champion for the Georgia Bulldogs, the offensive coordinator there in Athens. And he's done a fantastic job. He's somebody that I was considering one of the best offensive coordinator candidates out there in the National Football League this offseason, and he lands in Baltimore in the AFC North. And he led one of the best offenses in the country in his time with the Georgia Bulldogs. I think that he is much, much better than Greg Roman when it comes to the passing game. I think that he's actually gonna have some options for Lamar, or whoever's quarterbacking, when there's cover zero. The big thing with Greg Roman is that he didn't really know how to design a passing game. He's one of the best, if not the best, run game coordinators in the National Football League, but he couldn't get the passing game figured out. And I think Todd Monken's going to be able to do that. You know, in Georgia, they had a great balance between the run and passing games. I think we're going to see that in Baltimore. But, you know, it really sucks to see this happen with Baltimore because they got, I think, a really good coordinator, and I don't want to see that in the Steelers division. But the question is, will it be enough to keep Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? It's looking like that they're going to franchise tag him. I think that's a given at this point. The question is, will Lamar Jackson hold out until he is traded? I think that's one of the most intriguing storylines of the 2023 offseason. Let me know in the comment section right now, guys. Predict for me, will Lamar Jackson be a Raven in 2023? Type 1 if you think yes, or type 2 if you think no. And go ahead right now, guys. We're at the end of the show, but here's the thing. If you love the Ravens, okay? If you love the Ravens, don't like the video. Don't like the video, all right? If you hate the Ravens, go ahead and smash that like button. You made it to the end of the video. You are a true friend of the show for making it all the way to the end of the video. I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.